It is my privilege to have a longtime friend live with me on the internet right now. Welcome, Mark Lowry. Hey, Mark.
Hello, Scott Davis. How are you?
Good. Now, where are you located right now?
Well, I'm in my bedroom slash office slash studio.
Yep. Yep. So,
Yep, on this beautiful day
beautiful
in Houston, Texas.
Houston,
And you're
Texas.
in,
I'm in Stockbridge, Georgia, in my little family room here. The dogs. You
I've been
might
there
see my
many
dog back there.
times.
Yes, you've been right over there where my mama used to sit.
You like my quarantine hair?
I do. Speaking of quarantine,
High and lifted up?
how have you enjoyed this whole coronavirus season?
Well, I've actually enjoyed it. I mean, really. Because I was fed well, unfortunately, by some many of my female friends who came to my house and cooked for me and good night, and I really worried. I mean, I'm gonna have to do something, Scott.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I've blown up like Lulu on Hee Haw.
Yeah. You've got that's for me. It's like pulling a ripcord on a raft. It just blew right up. Now, last year you voluntarily took the whole year off. Now
Well,
this
yeah. See,
and this
I go.
year you were forced to take the year off so far.
I, well, see, I think I got my years mixed up.
There
I
you
think
go.
the Lord meant for me to take this year off, but
Right.
I took it a year ahead of time.
You got ahead of the God there. See, you're not supposed to
No,
get ahead
I
of God.
about every 20 years I love to take a sabbatical, and I called it retirement, hoping that that could happen, but that could never happen. I don't know how to retire. What
No.
would I mean, when you've been called to do something, it's hard to just quit, but you can change it as you age
Right. Right.
and slow down and work hard. Work what they say, work smarter, not harder.
So, what did you do on your year off last year? Anything very interesting that was cool? What
Um,
was the most interesting thing you did? Because I know you
what
traveled around the world.
Well, I didn't go around the world, but I went around the United States a little bit. I went to a conference called Water to Wine, which was very interesting. I wanted to do more things like that, but it just time slips away even when you are potentially taking time off. I'm still very busy,
Yeah.
because I was doing
Right.
a lot of internet stuff,
Right.
learning to go live and learning. I started Mondays with Mark, and then I did dinner conversations, which I was still doing, even though I wasn't touring. The only thing I took time off from was the tour bus.
Right. Right. Well, and you were really a pioneer when it comes to this internet show stuff because you were doing videos back how long ago? I mean, you were doing a long time ago.
Well, 2006 is as far back as I go on YouTube, but I was trying to do it, before that, even with Adobe something or other, Adobe Flash. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
It's so easy now to do it
Hmm.
that the way it used to be, I can't even remember how I did it. And I can't remember how I had the want to do it, because that's a lot of work.
Oh.
It's hard for me to get up the want to do it when it's easy. I walk in here and I hit a couple of buttons and boom, we're live in
Right.
front of who knows how many people. And then it stays up there for eternity.
Right.
So you to make sure whatever you're saying, that in 100 years you'll still hopefully believe it,
Yeah. Exactly.
you know, and that you're speaking on the right side of history every time you speak, you know. But who knows?
Yeah.
But it's fun. I enjoy it. In fact, I enjoy it so much, I think sometimes I might be wearing out my welcome, you
Well,
know, because I go live so much.
you said it. I thought it. No, I'm just kidding. No, no, it's been good, and you have a lot of followers out there, and I've enjoyed. Well, I don't watch them all the time, but the times I do enjoy, and you've had
Well,
some great.
I did do them so often. I've stopped.
Yeah, you were doing them daily for a while.
Like during the quarantine when everybody
Yeah.
was hunkering down, and I did it. I'd go on every day and sing some hymns that a cappella, 'cause I can't play anything really. And so, but that was fun. It was unrehearsed, And Mondays with Mark, I did that for several years, and just recently decided that that's enough of that one.
Right.
I don't know how I know when it's over. It just now what I'm gonna do is an occasional
Right.
Mondays with Mark, like Dan Dean
Oh
of
yeah. Yeah.
Phillips Creek.
Right. Right. Yeah.
He was at my house last weekend. He and his wife and their little dog Gizmo,
Gizmo. That
who
was a
could
cute little dog.
sing. But
I know. I saw
oh,
that.
and you know he passed away the next day.
No way.
Yes,
Oh
they
my
took him
goodness.
home. See, you don't watch anything I do, Scott. You would know that
Well, I
if you
didn't.
were.
Well, I don't watch the
You're
entire
so
program.
consumed with Scott Davis that you don't care what your mentor is doing.
Well, that's true. You're a mentor. You taught me,
No,
and
the next day, hey,
Yeah.
the next day, they took him to the vet. He was in final renal kidney failure or
Oh
something,
my goodness.
and they had to put him down. He was a sweet dog.
Now you've got two dogs, right? Or
Well,
just the
now I
one?
only have one. We had to put Bo down last month
Uh,
because he was 18 years old. I was just glad though that we had one that made it to a ripe old age because
Right.
I've lost two that were 3 years old. Like one was taken by a hawk, the
Oh,
other
my.
was taken by the neighbor's pit bull, and so I won't have a dog that's I'm never gonna after Bella Dean goes to be
Yeah.
with Jesus. My dog days are over.
Over.
Yeah, I don't. It's too much. It costs too much.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
They're expensive, and I'm going back on the road occasionally, and it's just easier. I'm going to fly out and do some stuff here and there, but
Well, tell
I
people
just
about your shows because you've got the occasional Mark Lowry live during the day, and then you were doing the Mondays with Mark, and that's all archived on Facebook and YouTube. Now,
right.
tell about. A lot of people don't know this that you have a show on Amazon called Dinner Conversations. Tell what that's about.
When I was preparing or thinking of slowing down and not touring so much, I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought of this idea called Dinner Conversations because I've always loved great food and great conversation. And usually they happen together, I
Right.
have found. And I have been in so many incredible conversations with people that I admire, like, you know, Gloria Gaither, Tony Campolo, Bill Gaither, even on occasion. Uh, who else? I mean, just so many through the years. And I thought, wouldn't that be wonderful if we could sit down and eat and forget the cameras are there,
Right.
which is about
Hard.
near impossible,
Right.
but still you try. And so that's how we get. So we're in the third season now. It's on Amazon. You can binge watch it on Amazon Prime. And it's on YouTube, of course, and at dinner-conversations.com.
And I'll put that
So,
up here on the thing so
okay.
people can see it because that is
Yeah.
I enjoyed that show. It's very well done, and you have a co-host for that,
Right. Andrew Greer
Andrew Greer.
is my co-host. He's a young man who interviewed me on for CCM magazine, and I thought his questions were really good. Can't remember any of them right now, but at the time I remember thinking, "Wow, this is really a fun conversation." Because I was being asked things I wasn't normally asked, and I enjoyed hearing what I had to say because I hadn't thought about it. And I'm a talk thinker. I don't know what I'm thinking until I hear myself say it.
Right.
So I enjoyed that. And so when I got home and started thinking about dinner conversations, I thought, would it be good to have a barely millennial?
Right. Right.
He loves to say he's a millennial, and I love to remind him he's barely a
He made it
millennial.
just under the wire.
Yeah, he got in just under the wire. But it comes from a different perspective, and so I think that's been good. And he's done most of the work, which is always good. I
Hmm.
just have to show up and spout off, but he prepares and he knows all about the guests, which
Right.
I usually learn about most of them the day before
Sure.
or the day of, and do a briefing and then go in there and start talking with them. And he's really good.
Well, you mentioned Tony Campola earlier. You had a show with him called Saturdays with Mark and Tony. Now that's
Yeah.
still archived on YouTube, isn't it?
Well,
Can people find it?
so yes, it is. It'd be on my YouTube channel if you go back far enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I
it's on
enjoyed
there.
those shows because what I loved about Tony, he always started out by saying, "I could be wrong," on
Right.
this, which was great, but it made people think. That's what I love about your guys' conversation, because sometimes you would be looking at him, and he'd be talking, and this is this, or this, and your eyes would kind of glaze over, and you say, "Not everybody does that." And he goes, "You're right, not everybody," and you would challenge him on some things. I thought that was really, really good, because people in our faith, we need to be challenged in our faith and understand why we think the way we do,
Well,
and I
I've
love that.
accused Tony of just adding when you add a date and a name to anything, you can make up something like all men should worship and adore their wives and submit to them, said Eusebius Glacius of 1563 in the canon of the Gospel of Luke, and then you're sitting there with all this. I could be making all that stuff up.
Right, right.
Just because you can put a date on it doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly.
And also, sometimes tradition is just a bad habit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not always true.
Right. A lot of stuff in our faith is tradition
Right.
instead of just Bible stuff. But
And
anyway,
tradition can be good.
yeah.
You like this? Somebody gave me this shirt, the man, the myth, the legend, vintage 1958. Genuine quality. What else?
Old
Top
time,
notch, aged,
top notch,
old style.
perfectly.
Aged perfectly. And if I go any higher,
See the belly button.
I love t-shirts.
I do
quit wearing
too.
them. Huh?
I love t-shirts, but I don't wear much on them. My wife designed a shirt, it says Jesus with the heartbeat lines, because she's a nurse and she kind of like the heartbeat. So we did a mask like that with Jesus, but I don't wear the mask. And somebody on Facebook says, "Isn't that a little hypocritical? You don't wear masks, but you sell them." And I said, "I don't wear Christian."
Well, why don't you wear
I said, "I don't wear Christian t-shirts either, but I sell them because people are encouraged by them."
And why wouldn't you wear a mask in public?
Well, I do if they require me to, but I keep the social distance. They say if you can't social distance, wear a mask. If you can't, wear
Well,
a mask, social
there's all
distance.
these crazy theories and political nonsense going around.
Yeah,
And I just think if it's politics, well, why do we have to kill Italy with it?
yeah,
If it's politics, let's keep it over here in America.
that's right.
But it's just crazy.
I know.
A virus. I think what happened, Mother Nature got sick and tired of not being able to breathe, released a little virus so we'd shut up and sit down and she could have a breath.
Well, and I'm not sure even China started this thing. I think it came from Zoom, because everybody's using Zoom now. I just think they wanted their stock price to go up. So
Yeah.
now,
Well, it's not the first. Listen, this is not the first pandemic we've had, and it won't be the last.
no.
And there have been a lot worse ones.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now you are known, and I know you get asked this all the time, but you are most known for your song you've written. Because you've written a lot of songs, but there's one that kind of sticks out among the others.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, did you know? And I remember back when you wrote that, and I was in college. For people that don't know, I started college. You had just finished college, so we were 4 years apart.
At
But-
Liberty.
At Liberty, but we lived there in Lynchburg, and I knew you there. And I remember on your old Mac computer with a dot matrix printer, you
Of
printed
this
out.
kind.
Yep. You printed out
Macintosh.
the Macintosh, because we were Macintosh fans from the beginning.
Mhm.
And you printed out a lyric, a poem, and you said, "I'm thinking about putting this in my newsletter," because I think you had written it for the Christmas production or something.
Well, it came from that Christmas.
Yeah.
The idea came from the Christmas production as far as, it just what started. My mother really, and we talked about this all my life, all
Yeah.
these ideas of
Right.
the humanity of Jesus. Everybody knows about the deity of Jesus, or at least in our world they did. But we didn't talk about the human, that he got sick, I guess, maybe, and skinned his knees and had a cold. I don't know. He was human. He became 100% human, and that Mary had to teach God how to walk. Mary had to teach the Word of God how to talk. I mean, and those kind of things, me and my mom, we just sit around and try to think of stuff to blow each other's minds with it. And then when I was asked to do the Living Christmas Tree production, I put a monologue in there because I realized you can't write Christmas songs. They're hard. Everything that's been said about Christmas has been said, and I didn't even intend to write a Christmas song. I was writing a monologue to go between two songs in a Christmas production, and through that monologue, for someone to say, came the more of the idea. It was a lifelong process. It was a birthing, actually, but when it actually popped out, it may have been an hour or two,
Right,
you know,
right.
for
And
the
you had
lyric, and
and,
then about 30 minutes for the music, Buddy tells me.
and you had a lot of questions that didn't make the song. I mean, you had a whole list of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, the only ones that made the song were the ones that rhymed.
Yeah. Which was good. Now you had mentioned something. Because tell this, because I think this is great. I heard you do it on a public radio or something, telling about the story about Gloria Gaither said you had written it grammatically wrong
Oh
originally.
yeah. After it was Michael English had already recorded it, Kathy Mattea. I mean, several years after it was already a come around Christmas classic almost. Every year I would hear it by someone new, Kenny Rogers and Winona and CeeLo Green and an opera singer. There's even a disco version
I've
by a
heard
lady
that one.
named Christine W. And but anyway, Gloria says, that's incorrect English or grammatically incorrect. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, it's Mary, do you know that your baby boy will one day walk on water? Because when Michael English recorded it, he sang it incorrectly. But yet it is correct English, but it's not what I wrote. I wrote, Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day walk on water? Because in Texas, we go up to people and say, hey, did you know your kid's playing baseball down the street? Right? We don't
Right,
say, hey, do you know?
right, right,
We always, did you know?
right.
So I didn't. I went through Liberty Baptist College, and they never told me about perfect present tense. Of course, when I went to Liberty, it was a glorified high school.
Oh
If you
yeah,
had an IQ of plant life, you could get a degree. As long as you paid your bill, you're going to
that's
pass.
how I got in there. That's exactly right.
And now it's a bona fide school. I could
Yeah.
never make it there now. But anyway, so where was I? What was I talking
About
about?
about the lyrics, about the grammar of the song.
Oh yeah, she said, Mary, do you know that your baby boy will? And I just didn't, Mary, did you know that your baby boy would, is what Michael English sang, and it
Right.
killed me because it took you out of the manger scene. And I wrote it as if a excited little angel, not the one that told her all the information, but the next one that came along who's out of her loving mind saying, do you have any idea who is in your lap?
Right.
Of course she did. That the bigger angel just told her. But I'm always, and really, Mary, did you know, is not about Mary.
Right.
It's about the baby in her lap and the wonder of that. And that compressed and compacted in that 8-pound bundle was the fullness of the Godhead. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And so that's what that song is trying to do. It's asking questions that Mary obviously may or may not know, and it's irrelevant if she does or doesn't. It's my excitement in it. It's like, can you believe what's in your lap, Mary?
Right.
One day he's going to walk on water. One day those lips are going to raise the dead. One day those hands are going to wave to a storm and the storm will be still. I mean, those little feet were the same feet that had walked on streets of gold and been worshiped by angels. And those infant lips lying in her. I mean, those were baby lips nursing her breast that had spoken the worlds into existence. That is amazing. And it still amazes me.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Michael English, he was the first one to record that song. Now, when you first met him with the Gaithers, I heard he wasn't real fond of Mark Lowry.
Oh, no. And I wasn't totally fond of him. I mean, the thing is, here's the deal. I've had to put up with people my whole life who don't like me.
Yeah.
Growing up through school, there were bullies because my mouth was getting me in trouble, but usually my mouth could get me out of trouble just as easily as it could get me into trouble. because I could talk myself out of fights very quickly.
Yeah.
But so anyway, when I'm full grown now, I'm doing 200 concerts a year when I meet Bill Gaither. Most of them are independent Baptist churches, and I was breaking into the Southern Baptist churches, and it was so exciting. You know how we were. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we wanted, man, it was a dream to get to go to one of the big Southern Baptist churches, you know.
Oh yeah.
Well, about that time is when Gaither discovers me and says, "Would you like to join the vocal band?" Well, I had just signed a solo recording contract with Word. So my focus was on the solo thing, and then this opportunity comes up. I've never sung in a group before, especially in a group as good or well known as the Gaither Vocal Band. And I even told Bill, I don't know if I can do two things, and I'm not going to give up my solo career. I've been doing that forever. And he said, "Well, I've always done many things. I'll never forget that."
How about that?
And I thought, well, then I will too. I can do many things too then.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
you could do I didn't know you got to do many things. I thought you just got to do one thing. So I started doing the vocal band and the solo thing, and both of them really helped each other out.
Right.
And then Bill and I developed that, you know, where I'm the perpetual 10-year-old making fun of his hair.
Right.
And I did that for 13 years along with the solo career. Then I started thinking I'm looking very silly up here, being a 50-year-old 10-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that character can only work when you're really young and you look it.
Right.
But when you become an old man making fun of another old man, you look like an idiot. You know, I guess. I don't know. That's, but also when I left the vocal band, it wasn't about that at all. It was about, I couldn't hear the music anymore, and I was burnt out,
Right.
and I needed to go rest.
Yeah.
And about every 20 years, I do that. I get burnt out and I go rest. It's your
Uh-oh.
money's worth when you
Hang
go
on
to
a
Gaither
second.
concert.
Hang on. We're gonna have to edit right there because you froze up for some reason. Couldn't see you or hear you.
Huh. Well, mine didn't. Are you there?
Yeah, you're here. Mine didn't either, but yours is good. So I'll start it right there.
Mine. And I can send you what I've got too, because I'm recording it too.
Well, let me just pick. Sometimes I'm listening to you, and I don't know if you feel this when you're interviewing people, but I'm looking at controls and trying to do this, and I'm halfway listening and then trying to do the control too, and I get lost where I am sometimes. Oh,
I know. That's why I
frustrating.
wish I had someone.
Yeah.
I wish that
If I had a
was there to do your
producer.
show. See, if we lived in the same city, I could do your show, you could do mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I could run it all. I could concentrate on the interview. Because I'm sitting there listening to. So some of my transitions think, well, he just quit talking to him about that, went on to something else. You know, because that's because I was trying to.
I need to train somebody how to do this.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here trying to go between slides and put your name up and make sure this is right and. It's hard. I mean, I enjoy doing it, but it's a one-man show. It's hard to do.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I've been doing it a long time.
Oh, I know. And when you did it with Gaither that time, and he was on you said we might have to do this by phone, and you said no, I think he's got the Skype, and you were live the whole time when you got it figured out, and it looked great.
But see, I don't edit much.
Right.
Because what I do, I just like them to hear everything that's happening.
Sure.
I don't care how slick it looks. I just think it should be like we're all FaceTiming each other.
Yeah. I want it to look like, HBO special.
Yeah. Well, that's Dinner Conversations is that for me.
You're right. And it does look great. And
Dinner Conversations is like a PBS special.
But you got people that do it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And make it look great.
It's a team.
But I was saying earlier about the Gaither concerts, and I might just leave this just like it is and just not edit any of it. Just put it out there. All raw. But you said that the Gaither concerts, when you left the first time, or maybe it was the second time, I can't remember, because you've been with them twice, 2 stints. You said, it's the only concert I'm part of that I have to shave during intermission because it's so long.
Yeah. Yeah, but people love them, and they get their money's worth. Some people really only hear it once every couple of years, and they can sit there for 4 hours. But when you're doing it 3-4 hour shows in a weekend,
it's
like,
right. But Bill, It's like the first time he's ever heard it.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
he is amazing. I've seen him backstage with you guys, and he's in his world, of the music.
Yeah.
It's
He
pretty,
loves it.
yeah, it's
It's
amazing.
his boyhood dream come true.
Hey, tell that story about where y'all were praying over the night, and then the commercial came on.
Oh, this is true, and I
This is
talked
funny.
about it at the beginning of one of my videos. I think it was Broadway. Anyway, um, we were doing the Opry for the very first time. So we, the guys that were in the group, is our first time. Bill had done it before, but we had never done it. And so Bill kept a TV on all day long during the dress rehearsal backstage, and he was waiting to see this commercial for his videos, his Gaither Homecoming videos, and he kept waiting on that commercial to come on all day long. And finally, we were about to go sing on the Opry, and he said, "Let's pray." So we all got in a huddle, and the TV's still on, but we're in a huddle
Right.
with our arms around each other's shoulders, and we're praying. And Bill starts the prayer. He's the only one praying at that particular time, and he's praying, praying, praying. In the middle of the prayer, that commercial he had been waiting on all day long came on. He stops in the middle of the prayer and he says, "God bless you, bye-bye." And he turns and looks at the commercial, and the guys, we start dying laughing because, first of all, Bill told God to bless himself. And Bill hung up on God for a Walmart commercial.
Oh my
And that's what it was. It was a Walmart commercial about the Gaither videos. I forgot
Right.
that part till the very end, but it all day long. And so the Lord let that commercial run while he was in the middle of that prayer so the Lord could show Bill Gaither who he loved most. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
that
that
was
is,
that was my old fundamentalist coming out.
yeah, exactly. Oh, and you and I both grew up in independent. My brother, my brother Roger, I love him to death. Great guy, but we get along great. We ride motorcycle. He still
He's
lives.
KJV all
He's
the way.
KJV. He did his thesis. He's a doctor now, Doctor Roger Davis. But
KJV, I would love to read his
he did a
doctorate.
thesis on why the 1611 King James is the only scripture. My mother proofread
Well,
the whole
what did Paul
thesis for him.
have?
Oh, I don't know what he had. He had the Greek, I guess, but
He didn't have
I
16.
asked my brother. I said, "Well, what about the Spanish Bibles?" Or he said, "As long as it's translated from the King James, it's all right."
But Paul didn't have it
I
translated
know.
from so before 1611, no one had the Bible.
Well, he'll have an answer. He'll have an answer for you.
Somebody's crazy.
But Roger, I love Roger. He's a great guy.
Oh, I do too.
And he
I
loves
know a lot of crazy
everybody.
people I love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And listen, I still go into churches like that, and they tell me, "You brought your King James Bible with you, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes, I did. No
Well, I
problem."
memorized mostly
Yeah.
in the King James,
Well,
but I love memorizing other versions too.
I do too. I grew up, most of the ones that I quote, because that's what we had was the King James. That's what we memorized. But I love reading it, and my favorite right now is the New Living Translation.
I
And
love that one.
and I got Charles Swindoll's New Living Translation Bible with his notes in it. Man, it just really brings it to life. I really love it. I should turn that off.
Don't you
when
love
I'm
how
doing
we all
shows.
have our phones
I
going?
know. All right, I want to tell a couple of funny stories because I remember when I guess this is when you first were discovered because you had how many albums before your first word record? How many albums had you done?
Oh, I don't know.
A bunch.
I've done so many custom records, and when I was little, I was on the Heartwarming Impact label for a couple of records. So I went for a professional to my voice changed, and I was dropped, and I went back to school, and I became unprofessional, and made a bunch of records then, just because I don't know why, I just did. And
All right, hang on.
then,
You froze again. You're talking coming through, but you're frozen. There it is. Now it's
Oh.
working. Now you're doing all right.
How strong is your Wi-Fi?
I've got a 400 gig, 400 megabyte,
Ooh.
whatever.
Ooh.
But it's
Okay,
working now. So
so
you were professional when you were like 10 or whatever,
11
Yeah.
to about 14, my voice changed, went back to school. And then when I graduated from college, started traveling. Roy Morgan booked me
Oh yeah.
and he would book me about 200 concerts a year in independent Baptist churches and youth camps and whatever. And they did that for 8 years, 1980 to 1988.
Yeah.
And in 1988, Roy Morgan gave Bill Gaither a video of me doing a concert. And Gary McSpadden was leaving at that time, and it was just timing. Everything just
Right.
was just fit.
Well, I remember going with you a couple of years to Estes Park, Colorado. There was a big music conference. I don't even think they do it anymore up there.
No.
And I remember the year that you were known by people because you never meet strangers. You get to know people, and you do a lot of people there. But tell the story about the guy that, because they gave you like a Monday morning slot, right? And you did 2 songs, and the guy said something like, they didn't want you. Didn't want you to go up there, but the guy said, "Trust
Well,
me." I mean, tell 'em about
Judy Martin, Judy Spencer,
that. Yeah,
who became Judy Nealon. She
Nealon,
married
yeah.
Rex Nealon.
Ray Rex
Well, back
Nealon.
when she was married to Hal Spencer, she told Cam Floria, who owned the Singing in the Rockies, which was Estes Park, the big event, to let me on a Monday morning. And he said, we don't have time. We're having to cut back the main artists like Sandy and Amy and all those people. And so we're having to cut their time slots because there's just no time. She said, put him on. I guarantee you he'll get a standing ovation. Well, she didn't tell me she told him that, or I would never have shown up,
Right.
because that would have scared. That's too high a.
Yeah.
Oh. So anyway, I get on a Monday morning, and Sandy Petty introduces me, and I say, thank you, Amy, for that wonderful introduction. Your first album, My Father's Eyes, is still my favorite. And the audience was chuckling. And then I said, are you ready to rock and roll? And the audience went, yeah. I said, tough, I don't do that. And then I sang one of my little inspirational songs. I told another story after that about going to Pittsburgh and not getting paid, which I knew everybody there could relate to.
Right.
Which is what you always, if you really want to do this right, know your audience and try to tell a story that they can relate to, which I'd already thought through many, many, many times, because this was a big moment for me. And I knew it would be. And so I sang another song, walked off the stage, and went to my car and drove to the airport because I had to be at a camp that night that I was already booked at, and they let me off on that Monday morning just so I could go do this. But I got a standing ovation. Well, after that, Roy Morgan stayed there and got to talk to all the record companies, and I didn't get to enjoy that.
Right.
I was, I'd gone so many years just dreaming. I'd sit in the back with all the registrants when I was going there and paid my way, and I'd see Sandy sing or Amy Grant or, all these great singers, Steve Green, Larnell Harris, and I was young and a little cocky. I thought, but also very realistic. I knew I couldn't out-sing any of them, but I knew I could out-talk most of them.
Right, right.
I knew where my gift was. So when I got up there, I used my gift. And the singing was just a little exclamation point, just something to give you time to think about what I just told you.
Right. And that was great because that's when all the record companies, because you had sent records to record companies before. I remember Len Kiesecker, you did a great album with him and sent it to them, and they said thank you, but no thank you. But then they hear you and see those record people were there and saw you in your element with the talking, and that's when they approached Roy, and that kind of helped, I'm sure.
Right.
And now this has been
It's
great.
best to dance with who brung you.
Exactly.
Always dance with who brung you.
And for people that don't know, Roy went to college with us, and he was, like you said, he started booking with you. He said, I want to be a booking agent, and he booked you. And now he's probably like the premier, he's premier.
It is.
Yeah. He
Which
does.
What's that big event he puts on it? Winter Jam?
Winter Jam, and he does Casting Crowns
owns all that.
concerts, and I mean he's one of the biggest promoters out there. I mean he's been doing it for years.
And he is one of the tightest people. I used to make fun of him. I told him if he swallowed a piece of coal when he pooped, it'd be a diamond. Because he's so tight with
Yeah,
his money.
right.
But God has blessed him
Oh
because he
yeah,
gives so much away. He helps so many people, and he's always been that way.
great
I
heart.
remember when we
Yeah,
started together. At first, he was only getting like, I think it was 25% of the offering,
right,
and none of the product sales.
mm,
Well, sometimes my offerings would be $100,
right, right.
but my product sales would be 900 or 1,000. And so I was really living off of my cassette tapes. I remember one time I came home, I'll never forget it. It was the house at 1105 Sheffield Drive in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I was in my little room that was an office. Roy was standing in the doorway. And when he realized he'd made $10, or no, 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 he'd made $25. Wait, what? $25, because
Yeah,
25% of 100 is $25.
right, right.
And he
We
just
did
went,
go to Liberty
yeah,
Baptist.
right. His head, I remember his head just falling against the door frame. And immediately I said, you just went from nothing to 25% of everything. I
Good.
knew, because I knew
Yeah, sure.
75% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Right,
And Roy Morgan could book a pork chop into a synagogue. And if he stopped booking me, it was over.
right.
And so he immediately, and from that moment on, he got 25% of everything. I think that's what it was, or it may have been 20%. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's enough to keep him
right.
happy.
Exactly.
And we started just going at it. And it was horrific at times. I slept on preachers' couches. I've had cats walk up me and walk up my body in the middle of the night going, and I hid it because I'd never been around a cat,
Oh
didn't know
my
what it
goodness.
sounded like. I was in some home that they'd put me in, and I didn't know there was a cat there until it was walking up my body going, and I thought it was the devil. And I hit that thing,
Oh my
goes across the
gosh.
room. And then the time I pulled up to a church and no one was there, I mean, everyone had forgotten. Everyone, from the preacher down to the janitor, it was locked up. That church, no one. I had to go to a payphone and call Roy and ask him what was going on.
Oh.
And let me see if there's any
Oh,
other
I
good
learned to
ones.
call. I learned to call ahead of time because I had Michael Tate, who's now with Newsboys, and he and I and another guy at Liberty. I booked a church. I was still in Lynchburg, and we're going to drive down and do this night at this church. And I booked it, but then never called him back, to double check on everything. And we went down there. We got in the car. We had all of our stuff. We went down. Mike Tate was going to sing, and I was going to talk, and this other guy was going to give us testimony. And we got there, and there were padlocks on the church doors. It
Mm-mm,
had gone out of business.
mm-mm.
And so we
Oh,
went to some Golden Corral or something, and then went back home. I mean, it was crazy.
oh
But you
my
remember
good.
the church? It was in where was it? Union, New Jersey, or something. It was Frank Papandrea. You remember Papandrea?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I was at his church one time, and he said, "Oh, we got the nice upstairs church apartment for you to sleep in." And I woke up Sunday morning because I was going to be there Sunday morning to the sound of the copy machine next to me because the lady was running off the bulletins,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up." But yeah, we've been in a lot of places like that. But that was one of
Oh,
his
I hated
churches.
those when you had to stay at an apartment in the church,
Oh,
or what they call them, a prophet's
Prophets
chamber.
Chambers. That's it.
Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like a chamber. What do you mean chamber? That sounds scary. And they were. I mean, they would not have a TV in there because that
No.
was back when that was worldly.
Right.
You didn't have a phone in there. I mean, you could be murdered and never heard of
That's true.
because there's no neighbors. You're alone in this. Churches are scary anyway when no one's in them.
Right.
I, I mean, when you're a kid, and I was just a kid when I started doing this. Well, I was out of college, but but I didn't like prophets chambers.
No, one guy put me when I first started. It was somewhere in Virginia because we traveled around, close to Lynchburg, and he put me in a little motel, the kind that's just one little building, and the key had the big plastic diamond shaped, key thing, and it was like 10 rooms, and
Hmm.
and he took me there, and he opened up the door, and there was naked women on the wallpaper. of the
Uh-uh.
room.
Oh.
And the
Oh, I can,
and the pastor
I can
said you
top
should
that.
enjoy staying there.
I can top that. The one I forgot about this till you said that.
Oh,
I was put in one of those row motels, which I'm sure you know where you just pull up to the door,
right.
and then
Yep.
the next room's right. You pull up to
Yep.
that door. Okay, that's where I've stayed. I've stayed in those before. It was a little dingy, a little dirty, but I'm not real proud anyway. I mean, I don't mind. I'd never checked the stuff out that closely. I just walked in. Anyway, so this preacher puts me in here, and I'm gonna be at their church the next morning. And at 10 o'clock, the phones go off and the porn comes on.
Oh my God.
And it's African American porn.
Oh my
And on every channel, there's a different porn going on. And then the walls became thin. It's like I could hear noises. I run
Oh.
out of that room to a phone booth. It's just like a scary movie with a light down over it. You all run through you get in there. I called that preacher. I said, I will sleep on your couch. Please come get me.
Oh
And he
my.
did.
Oh
And
wow.
thank God. And I slept on his couch because
Oh.
I mean, it was like spirits started flying around the room.
Sure.
It felt so wrong.
Yeah. It's like demons everywhere. You're not kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in places like that, and one guy down in Florida, he was cheapest. Loved him to death. Great pastor, but he was cheap. And he always put me in the best Motel 6 in town, And the last time he had me, this was years ago now, but he had me like three or 4 years. The last year he had me, he called me about a week before. He said, I'm putting you in a different motel because somebody got murdered there yesterday.
Oh,
I
nice.
said, well, thank you. I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, but you were doing the Billy Graham Crusade with the Gaithers. I think it was here in Atlanta. It was here in Atlanta, but I think it was 1994, somewhere around there at the Georgia Dome. And Jonathan Pierce, who he just passed away not too long ago, but he was part of the group, and I think you stayed with me during that time, and it was for that crusade, and my mama went, and she was staying on the other side of the field because they left the whole field open for the invitation, at the Billy Graham Crusade. So she was way on the other side. But I went with you, but I had to go earlier that day because Jonathan had forgot his pants. So I went to Macy's and bought pants for him so he could wear them that night. And so we were backstage, and I enjoyed, got to meet George Beverly Shea and Cliff Barrows and all these different people. Didn't meet Billy Graham because he was getting up in years then. He came out later on a little golf cart, so I never got to see him personally. But about 2 months before, I had done the local TBN station here. And Billy Graham people, they always send a guy ahead of time, like a year ahead, to live there and promote the crusade. And I was on the show, the TBN show. We were backstage, and we kind of hit it off because TBN Atlanta was very similar to the TBN out in California at the time. We had all the gold. It was real ornate and really, gaudy. But he and I hit it off because we were kind of making fun of all the decorations and stuff. Great program, and I sang and talked, and he was on there talking about the Billy Graham Crusade. But he was there that night, and I told you, I said, I'm going to sneak up on the platform, and you said, I dare you, because that's something you could tell your grandkids. You got kicked out of the Billy Graham Crusade.
Yeah. If you live.
If I live, right. And so you guys left and went out there, and I was backstage, and I was behind the thing. They had the big thing. The choir was up the top, like 200 voices singing. They had already started. And I'm glad I wore a suit jacket that night, and I was about to make my way across the field to meet Mama. And I ran into Dan Southern, that guy that was on the show with me. And he said, Scott. And he remembered, because we had such fun joking around. And we talked a little bit. He said, where are you sitting? I said, way on the other side with my mama. He said, you want to sit on the platform? And I thought, yeah. And so he said, come with me. And he put me just catty-cornered. I was right behind, but just to the left of Evander Holyfield. And Billy Graham turned around and introduced Evander Holyfield that night. And I was just to the left, and I went, like that, so the camera would see me. It was up on the Jumbotron, and you even noticed it, and you said, and several friends said, he made it up there. And I thought that was a great moment, though. That was funny.
Yeah.
And then that time I wrecked your car you were going to what was that Christmas tour you did? What was big
Young
with
Messiah,
Young
probably
Messiah? Yeah, we were in
back in the day,
back in Lent, and you had that Honda Accord. I think it was
and you rear-ended it.
I on the way to the airport. You said, "Can you give me a ride to the airport?" I said, "Sure." And I rear-ended somebody, and you told me, you said, "I can't miss this flight. Here's my driver's license." So I took you there. I told the lady, I said, "I'll be right back," and it was a lady I hit. And so I took you, dropped you off. You gave me your driver's license, and I went back, and police were already there. He left the scene. He left the scene. And I came back, and I said, well, I had to take you. He couldn't miss his flight. And they were saying, "Well, you left the scene." And I said, "Well, this is who I was driving for," and gave me your driver's license. The policeman looked at it and said, "Oh, we'll take care of this. We know him."
Yeah, you couldn't do that now.
No, you couldn't do that now. But that lady, she even tried to sue me over that. And of course, your dad
Did
was
she really?
Yeah, oh yeah. She said, "We're gonna sue you for like $25,000." Your car was all bashed in on the front. Hers didn't. I couldn't see anything on her, but she was like, "My neck, my neck, my neck."
Uh-huh.
So I figured she might. Of course, your dad was a lawyer, and he was still practicing, I think, back then. And so he wrote a letter on his letterhead to her people, her lawyers, and never heard anything since. And then you got out. That's when you were living. I don't know. You were living in Ackworth, I think, at the time. I don't know why we were in Virginia in Lynchburg, but maybe we went up there to spend time with your folks. But I remember you wrecked the same car like 3 weeks later. Tell about that, because you took it back to the guy.
Same car, the guy who fixed it.
Yeah.
Who fixed it when you wrecked it.
Right.
And it was still up, looked just like it when you did it. So I took it back to him, and I walked in and said, "Hey, that car you fixed last week where the paint's buckling?" And he went outside. First he said, "No, it's not." And he ran outside and died laughing.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a good laugh out of that.
Yeah.
But it was expensive doing it twice.
I know. And I'm still apologizing for that. I should have been paying attention.
Don't I have a good tan?
You do. Look at that.
I went boat riding yesterday, and I never get color.
You
And
got
I
a
got
nice
color.
one. You got color.
Look at there. My hair, gray
Your
hair
hair looks good. It looks good on you.
Gray hair looks good on a tan face.
It does. I've enjoyed you taking time out of your day, not that you got anything else to do,
Yeah, or all quarantined.
to quarantine, to spend time with me.
I'm not quarantined, but I think you ought to see the whole idea of the mask thing isn't to protect you; it's to protect everyone else. I hear.
Right.
So that's why you should wear one.
Well, I'll take
Even though I don't either.
Well,
But everybody else
Costco gives them out. They make you wear one at Costco.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but thank you for taking time to be on my show today, and I will make sure to put up where they can find you on Facebook and your YouTube channel, and of course marklowry.com. You go there, you can find all that stuff, right?
that's right.
Now, what's your next? You got anything live coming up that you're going to be doing? Out?
No, I'll probably go live at some point, but just whenever it'll be more random now.
But I'm talking
Then,
about concert-wise. Are you going to be out?
Oh, concerts.
Yeah.
I have a concert in Perryton, Texas at the end of July.
End of July.
So hopefully it's one they had to move,
Right.
and it was sold out. So hopefully the people will still come, you know.
Right.
But I don't know how. Hopefully we can sit next to each other by then.
You're not going to do a drive-in tour. That's the thing. All these artists are doing a drive-in tour.
I don't think anybody'd come. I can barely get a crowd when I ask them to come in person.
I try to drive in tour. They'll be showing up on the lawnmowers and their mopeds.
That's right. Garth Brooks is doing one.
Really?
Yeah, and it's $100 a truck or a car.
Right. Yeah, they do it by car, like maximum 6 people or something. Because I know
And Michael W. Smith did one, and I think who else? I think
well,
I
Toby
heard-
Mac's doing one, and Casting Crowns, because I was talking to them last week, and they're doing one. So I think there's like 3 or 4 that.
And it will be drive-in theaters.
Right, and they charge by car, and then you can sit, and they're live. They're not on the screen, but and you can sit and enjoy it, eat popcorn.
Oh, it's not on the screen. They're
They're actually there playing on the stage. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah, that may be the new way of doing it.
It might be. A lot of things are changing. So.
Well, change. You know what? The key to life, I should say, learning to endure, or let me say, the key to learning to enjoy life is to accept change. If you can welcome change, that's even better,
Yeah.
even though it hurts. But if you learn to welcome it, oh, here we go. We're going in a new direction now. I think it'd make life, people who hate change have a tough time.
And Donna, my wife, is one of those. She loves the routine, the way it should be. Oh, she hates change. I love change. I like different things and do different things, but
Yeah.
she's like routine, and it's tough on her.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think one of the keys to life is learning to welcome change.
right,
Oh my gosh. I mean, these are goals for myself. When I hear
sure,
myself talk, I'm talking to me
right.
because I don't like change that much, but I'm learning to welcome it, and it makes it easier.
Well, I appreciate you encouraging me. I've had this Ecamm software for years. I might even had it before you, but you're the one that's been using it. You take advantage of stuff, and you've encouraged me to get on here, and it's a change for me to learn to do this stuff. But I've enjoyed it. I always said, well, am I skinny? Am I fat? I'm too fat. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm just going to be. If I'm fat, I'm fat. I'm just going to be on here. I got to
Yeah.
be me.
I don't
And
care how skinny you get, you'll never be good looking.
well, that's true. I saw a thing at one of those workout places. They have the signs outside. Fat and ugly, join here and just be ugly.
Be thin and ugly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's me. I can be thin and ugly. But
That's right.
so thank you, Mark, for taking time to be with me today. This has been fun. So have a great day.
My pleasure. Talk to you later.
Bye bye. That was good, wasn't it?